All right, and I'll paste. So this is the image I'm going to be working with. At this point, I'm going to do a file save as, and I'll call this one hair light mask. And the next thing I'll do is go to the history panel. It can be extremely helpful to create a snapshot for when you begin a file, and if you started the file with really nothing in it, as this was started, the first history or snapshot will be blank. So I really don't want it to be blank. I want it to have something in it that I can go back to later. And I'll go to the bottom and I'll make a snapshot. All right, now the snapshot has been created, and I can begin to take a look at the existing color channel content. I'm referring to, when we go to channels, that as we take a look at the blue, the green, and the red channel, we can see that the blue channel content has the most contrast of color in the differentiation between the bright white pixels of the background, where I want to actually put something else in there, and everything else in the foreground. So I'm going to take the blue channel and I'm going to drag it down onto the new channel button icon button, and now I have a channel that is a copy of that I can use and adjust to create a selection channel or an alpha channel. And I'll change the number of this to hair alpha, so it's not called blue copy. And I'll save my file, Command S. Kind of a strange angle on her shoulder. The more I look at that, the odder it looks. In any case, I now have the hair alpha, and were you guys thinking that? It's sort of weird. Any case, one good sign here is that I've got a very tight white background, and if I begin with the levels dialog box, Command L for levels, what I want to have happen is I want to create a very contrasty version of this. I'm going to just start with the black point selector, and I'm not going to click on the ultimate black point that I need, but I'm going to click here on the highlight of the shoulder, and when I click on this light pixel, it's going to turn this pixel and every pixel darker than this pixel black. All done. Okay, so that is the beginning of creating a channel from my existing, or an alpha channel from my existing channels.
So you want the lightest pixel, actually?
Yes, well, you try for the lightest pixel. Often I don't pick the lightest pixel. I might pick a pixel that I know is not quite the lightest pixel. So if I picked something even a little bit darker than that, let's say over here, I will see that there's more highlights in the hair. In which case, as I'm looking very carefully at these edges and even zooming in on them, I'll click OK. I'll press Z for zoom, and now as I click and get closer, of course this is a really low resolution image, but as long as this is truly white, in this case, or a flat color, or a color that's easily isolated and differentiated from the rest of the image, this process can be not too difficult. But when the background is not really different enough, this can be much more difficult, and in which case you can use the thing called the channel mixer. However, I will save that for the fall. In today's version of this, I'm going to stick to keeping it fairly straightforward and doable. All right, so now I'm going to actually duplicate that one, so I have a copy of it. And with the copy, I will zoom in, and again, I'll go to Command L for levels. And this way, when I choose the black point choice again, and I click over here on the shoulder, I can tell if I've gone too far or not because I have something to compare to. As I zoom back out, Command minus, and switch between these, I'm looking for the contours. I'm looking for that there are wisps here. You can see that some of it closed up, like over here. There is some air, and that's closed. You see what I see? Right in here, there's some open spaces, and in this one that I just changed, that's really clogged up. Now the image I choose for the background is going to accommodate that somewhat. And you'll see that when choices are made in Photoshop, these concepts of accommodation can be extremely helpful. To take this to the next step, I'm going to sample, I for eyedropper, and sample. And then I'm going to choose my brushes. Need my brushes. I'm going to hide layers for now and collapse history. Get my brush. Looking at this brush, I want to make sure the opacity is 100. It's not too big. It's a soft edge brush. It really should probably be hardness closer to 100. And these spots here I'm going to fill in. So these are spots that I know for sure I do not want to change. And this highlight on this hair, I'll fill this in like that. Zoom in, Z, B for brush, click. Okay, so I'm attempting here and looking carefully at the level of color in these pixels, because in a perfect world these would be solid black strands. So I'm going to save again because I can revert back to this view if I need to. And what I did there, zoomed in too much. Hand tool, zoom, 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 zoom. Command L for levels, black point selector, and now I'm going to click on this gray pixel. Zoom out again. So these are starting to become more strand-like and almost clumpy, which can be very difficult to deal with. But if I slide these sliders here, I can thin these out a little bit, thicken them up. So I'm going to reset that, Option reset. Option turns the cancel into a reset button. Z for zoom. Been having a, oh, my bad. Z for zoom, I was inside the dialog. Command L, black point, and click. And Option reset, and I'm looking like, you know, how bad is that going to be if these are closed up, or is it too closed up? And here, so I'm feeling like that's pretty good actually. Okay. So that's the first step of the process, is creating this part from an existing channel. And I'll save again. I know people are working. While you're working on that, I'm going to take a look at the original image. And back to the mask. I can see that this has created some kind of odd haze here. I'm going to sample and paint this stuff out. And you can see that's probably not the best brush for that. And I'll soften the brush.
So you want to have the background completely white.
You want to have whatever you will want to change completely white. And in this case, yes, it is the background I want to change, but it might not always be. It could be a shirt, the thing you want to change. You're isolating that. And I'll save again. Choosing the proper image that will be believable and or treating the image properly can be what makes this either look fake or not so bad. So I'm going to pause for a moment, resume, and I'm going to copy this image and toggle back over to Photoshop, and need to go back to the RGB view. So I'm going to click the colored view, the RGB view. And now I do need my layers panel, so I'm going to go wonderful layers, there you are, and paste. Now, clearly this does not fit, and I may need to do some color variations. I'm going to go Command T and pull it down to about here and hit return. I'm going to warm this up a bit, and I'm not going to use a layer mask on this. I'm just going to be harsh here. I'm going to just go Command U for hue adjustment. Make a straight on hue adjustment here. And none of this looks good to me. It's all very purple. That's a little better. Could be interesting colorized. Just have to try it for the fun of it. You know, or not. It's horrible. Hating that. All right. I'm going to use this even though I'm not thinking it's that right. I think I need actually a different background here because it's just way too magenta, and I need something with a lot more warmth in it. Like this might be better. And it has some kind of crap in the sky back there, but I'll deal with that. How about this one? Ooh, that'll work. This is great. So this is also looking more high res, and I feel like the image colors are more aligned with the artwork that I have, and that's too somber and that's too contrasty. So back to this one. Okay. So I'm going to wait till it completely resolves. Waiting. All right, while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to jump over to Photoshop because that's taking a long time, and throw that layer away. I don't know why I added that layer. I didn't mean to. Oops. All right, yes. And now this is still not resolved. Maybe it never will come. I'll try that one, that looks good. Okay, so Control click, copy image, toggle over. If it makes it easier for you, you could do a new document and paste it, and then crop out whatever you don't want. That might make you happier than having to deal with that bottom piece. So here I'll just select up here the part of this I want, which is going to be the top half, and copy it. And back over to my light hair mask and paste. Command T. This might have even worked just this corner, but I really want that orange tonality in here is kind of great. So everything that we're doing in this class is, for the most part, very straight kind of Photoshop stuff. Even this treatment with the layer mask isn't really that difficult to learn somewhere. The things I'm going to be doing in the fall class are going to be very unusual kinds of ways of working with Photoshop, things that you're not commonly going to find or see, and using tools that when you look at them you're like, what the heck does that do? That's what that class is going to be. It's going to demystify a lot of aspects of Photoshop. Okay, so now I have my sky layer that, for better or for worse, is in place. I can still make modifications to it, but I feel like it is going to be a lot closer to the kind of color that I would want to have working with the existing imagery, even though I may end up lightening it or changing the levels or blurring it or any number of things. My next step is to apply the layer mask that I created to it and see what happens. So this is layer 2. I'll call this the sunset image or sunset layer, and I'll call this the figure layer. sunset and figure. And if I haven't already mentioned it, if we go to panel options, we can make our icons larger. And that's sometimes a very helpful thing. Not that much larger, but somewhat larger. Panel options. Okay, and I chose the largest one. All right, great. Now with the sunset layer selected, it was not selected a moment ago, and now it is. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go to Select Load Selection, and I'm going to use the Hair Alpha, and click OK. Hair Alpha is now applied. Now I'm going to come down to the layer mask icon and click it. Oh my God.
So the copy or?
Well, whichever one that you used, I mean, you need to know which one that is. So, all right. So if you look at them, I can see that, okay, I picked Hair Alpha and I needed Hair Alpha copy. So that's a good point. So I need Hair Alpha copy. So I'm going to do it again. It looks like it's going to work well. So I'm going to go select Load Selection, and I'm going to choose my Hair Alpha copy and click OK. All right. And that's what it looks like, just sitting there as marching ants on the sunset layer. And now I'll come down to the bottom of the layers panel and click on the Add Layer Mask button. And I've got that, which is surprisingly good. There are a few things I can do with it to make it look more realistic, and I'll do those in a moment. But you can see the contour looks pretty tight. Question? Sure, of course. I'm going to back out. With the sunset layer selected, I need to know which my alpha channels I'm using, and the one I need is the Hair Alpha copy. I'll do Load Selection, choose the correct alpha channel, and click OK. That's applying it to the sunset layer. And now if I click on Add Layer Mask, the layer mask is dropped on. Sure thing. It's also reasonable to be wondering what would happen if I wanted to move the background or resize it or something. So if I click off of this link here, now I've now clicked off the link, and I click on the image side of the masked layer, press V for move, and start sliding this up, I can get a different section of the photograph. I could scale the photograph that's in the background, Command T. This should only be scaling the photo and keeping the mask where I need it to be. Make sense? V is move, and Command T is transform for stretching. And now press return. And there's some kind of odd highlight here. It's part of this image. It's just sort of strange. If you want to see it without and with, without and with, again, if I select the image and move it down, okay. And then I'm going to click the link back on again, so it won't move out of place. There's a couple of more tweaks we can do to make this a lot more effective. Then you need to click this link off and then select the right part of the image. Now I will mention that I am teaching you things, so making sure that these two pieces are not linked, and they are not. I am blurring the background. One more time. Following this part, once you've got the color and the blur correct, make sure you save your document so you can revert back to this place in time. And I'm going to relink and click on the mask layer. When you click on the mask layer now, you're isolating just the layer mask. There is a technique that you can do under layer. Landed on a dead brain cell. That is not a good brain cell. This is what I want to do here. I want to do, okay, so I'm back. I'm going to press Control on my keyboard. And now I'm going to click this layer mask thumbnail. Click. And now you're going to see this thing that says Refine Mask. Refine Mask. You see it?
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to click on that. All right, now I'm going to click Show Original. And Show Radius. What? Okay, no, I'm lying. I'm going to go to the choice that says On Layers. That's the one I want. So I'm refining the mask, but I'm seeing the work as it truly looks.
How did you get the drop?
Again, I'll tell you this, both of these buttons are not clicked. Pop down, On Layers, choose, and boom. Now, you can see it says Output to Layer Mask, Output to Selection, New Layer with Layer Mask, New Document, all these things. I'm just going to let it be Output to Layer Mask. And I'm not going to refine this. I'm not going to remember the settings, but I want to refine the settings. If you click on this choice that says Edge Detection Smart Radius, you can take a look at that. Sometimes it does something, sometimes not so much. And you have to pause. This is a fairly rigorous setting. So, not really seeing much there because it's on 0, but if I start sliding this up a little, okay, so now I'm not happy with that. That's not a good choice for this. So I'm pulling this out and turning that off. What is the goal? That's an important thing to be thinking about. What is the goal? So I'm going to zoom in. The goal here is to make some of this stuff look more realistic, aka more smooth. So I'm going to use smooth. I'm going to go to the smoother and I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 little clicks of smooth to smooth the edges. Yeehaw. Okay, and then space bar, you can move it around, take a look. Did that help it? Did that hurt it? I think it helped it. I can look back on this side. I can put this back to 0. See? Crunchy. And here I can put this back to 3. This is 3 pixels of smoothing. Might be a little too much. I did edge detection again. I was not typing in the right field. 3. Yeah, that looks great. Much better. Okay. And you can try here if you want to. You can use the up arrow. 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, now it's starting to look like 1970s glamour shot. I'm not wholly against that, being born, you know, a child of the 70s, but still I'm going to bring it down to back to 3 again because I feel like it was just a little too hokey even for me. Right, you got to be careful with your settings here. Now your feather is how soft the edges, 2 feathered. I'm probably not going to feather at all. Even if I put 1 in that field, that's probably looks too weird to me. Contrast obviously is going to harden up, so you probably do not want any feather. However, if you use Shift Edge, you'll notice that you can do a negative number that chokes in, or a positive number, a positive number that chokes in, and a negative number that spreads out. So I have a -2, and I might want to smooth another one. And zoom out. You can zoom out right here. Okay. Zoom in. So I'm looking at the edges. I'm going to decrease that. Back down. See, this is back down at 0. Not so nice. 1, 2. And zoom out. And I'm pretty good with the 2 on that because I feel like more than that becomes odd. say the least. Click OK. Zoom out. It's getting better. I'm going to save again. It's a long movie I'm making here. All right, I think I will stop this movie here, and I'll do the rest of the tweaks in the second movie.